Everyone.
Mm.
Welcome to the Summer of Access webinar series. Today's session, Beyond Translation, Making Digital Learning Accessible to Multilingual Learners, brought to you by L'Etoile Education and the Accessibility L&D community. Couple of Zoom reminders. Please stay muted unless speaking. Use the chat or raise hand feature. Recordings will be shared in the Accessibility L&D Slack community. Live captions and transcripts are available as long as American Sign Language. If you'd like to, you can choose to watch and listen as we go through the session. About our presenter today. Dr. Karolina Lovejoy is an educator, research, and aspiring UX professional with a strong foundation in communication, instructional design, and digital accessibility. She holds a dual PhD in Communication and Media Studies from CY Sergi Paris University and the University of Warsaw, and has conducted qualitative and mixed methods research on media language and trust in technology. I would like to join you all in welcoming Karolina to the presentation.
Thank you so much, Nico. I'm very honored and happy to be here. Thank you for this cordial introduction, and thank you all of you who decided to join the session today. Thank you so much for your presence, for your time, for your interest. I will share my slides now, and also I would like to share some materials that I created for today. I'm going to place them in the chat so that if you are interested, you can use them afterwards. Okay, so the first one is multilingual accessibility checklist. Okay, so it's going to be here, and also a mini brochure. And I'll explain what they are and how to use them. Okay. So, having said that, once again, welcome to making digital learning accessible to multilingual learners. This topic is very close to my heart for several reasons. As you can hear, I'm multilingual as well. English is not my first language. My native language is Polish, and today I'm connecting with you from Poland. So it's a beautiful evening here, a few minutes after 9 p.m. I also speak German, Russian, French, and Spanish. I'm also certified in ELL or ESL, if you wish, so English as a second language. So I'll be speaking from that perspective as well. I am an educator and digital content specialist at Edmentum. So this is an online academy that where I teach foreign languages, ESL, and social studies. I am also an associate researcher at SY Cergy University, France. I do it remotely. And also, I'm a founder of a Global Start Academy. So what we do, we try to bridge American and European school systems. I help European students enroll and complete American online programs, such as, for example, dual high school diploma that allows European students to earn their American high school diploma in addition to their Polish high school diploma or German or Ukrainian or so on. So I have actually a lot of experiences from that work that I would like to share with you. Also, my life somehow aligned, you know, so that I live between two continents. I'm a digital nomad, so I travel frequently between Poland and the US. My PhD was also done in the co-tutel system, which means that I had two academic advisors, one from Poland, one from France. And I'm talking about it to show you that bridging those different cultures, different systems, different languages is also a major part of my life. Excellent. So I have been teaching in American online academies for a long time, and so sometimes I joke that I've been preparing for pandemics long before the pandemics happened. Since approximately 2014, and being here in Europe. And teaching for American online academies, I thought I had this idea very early. Is it possible to enroll European students in American online programs? How to make it accessible for them. Back then, it was very challenging because in Poland, we were not thinking yet in those categories. So when I was talking to a lady from the Polish Ministry of Education, and I asked her if it was even possible, she said absolutely not, because Polish students need to go to a real school and not to learn in a matrix. Which is when I found out that I actually work in some kind of a matrix. It was quite funny to me. So bridging those systems and language and cultures is really exciting, but of course has its has its challenges. Okay, so let's talk about those challenges. Let's think about those Polish students who are interested in completing American online programs. So what challenges they face? Well, first of all, the language itself, right? They may not be proficient enough, so they are not understanding the whole message on the surface of the language. Um, and the students that I enroll in the American programs here in Europe usually are at least intermediate. They are somewhere between B1 and B2, um, which means they are intermediate or higher intermediate. Do they understand 100% of the content? Usually not. I also like to bring here my own example. When I moved to the States, um, um, many years ago, probably 20, around 20 years ago, I remember first time living in Georgia, where I thought my English was quite good at the time. Um, I remember that a telemarketer called me and was talking to me for about 20 minutes, trying to sell me something. And I didn't even know what it was. But I was too scared, maybe too polite, maybe too shy to ask or to hang up. And I will come back actually to that example a little bit later when I talk about different communication styles. Um, so um, so here is the structure, the level of the language. Then what if a student, a learner, seems to understand all the words? All the words. So the layer of language is quite obvious to them. Still, without understanding the context, without understanding nuances of the language, they will not be able to fully access that message. And this is the case of many of my students here in Europe, but also I would like to tell you about my early experiences in the United States. Um, so on the slide, you see two images. The first one is the unisex salon. It refers to living in Fort Riley, Kansas. Um, when I saw that sign almost every day, I was passing that unisex salon, and it was in the same building as a some kind of a Christian church. And in my understanding, without understanding the whole context, all the nuances of the situation, I really thought that it was some kind of red lights district, like in Amsterdam, a place where you can buy time with beautiful ladies. So even more, I was surprised to see that it was in the same building as a Christian church. I just had no idea that it was a beauty salon, that it was a hair salon. Um, so I thought it was a quite funny example that I wanted to share with you. Another one, and it refers to using the language, using idioms. My then husband to be, my fiance, told me that he works out a lot. I really thought that he referred to some manual labor that he does outside the house, such as digging ditches. I had no idea that he talks about going to the gym, exercising. So, so this is another example. that illustrates understanding the language but not fully grasping the message. And this takes us to that definition and a distinction. What accessibility for multilingual learners really is. So, of course, and first of all, most of all, we have those foundational features and requirements that need to be met. So we need to think about screen readers, about alternative text, about captions, transcripts, simple layouts, clear navigation. So all those foundation features that we think of when we have accessibility in mind. So we need to make sure that our digital content is complies with WCAG requirements. So all those very important things that Nicole teaches us about and became such a wonderful advocate of. But then accessibility for multilingual learners is about providing that intellectual and cultural accessibility for students who learn in the second or third language, who come from different school systems and often miss the implicit cues, idioms, and cultural references. So what is it that we can and should do for them? Okay, so now I would like to explain those materials that I shared with you in the chat at the beginning of our meeting. So you can find them at the very beginning of our chat. So I prepared a multilingual accessibility checklist and also mini brochure. So they are basically the same thing as just mini brochure is a summary. And multilingual accessibility checklist, you know, is detailed and cites sources and also provides some rationale, some arguments why I think that those things are important for multilingual learners. And so the next part of my presentation also follows the structure, follows the points from those materials. And here the distinction into three different categories. So we have blue or all, you know, so we have the section that refers to all learners in the sense that both English and translated content and really applies to all languages. Then we have EN applies to English content, by which I mean, for example, my European learners who are enrolled in American programs. And then TR applies to translated or localized content. So with this distinction in mind, let's proceed. And also the checklist, it's a work in progress. This is what I compiled as I was preparing for today, based on the WCAG guidelines, also, but also communication theory and language acquisition theories. But this is also an invitation to collaboration. So you are welcome to use them, but also to contribute. Okay, so as you can see, the first part and the requirements that are foundational, they apply to all languages and in different languages, but also exclusively in English. And they are really the foundations that need to be met, because without them, many learners just can't even technically access the message. So here we have in mind alt text, keyboard friendly interactions, strong contrast ratios, consistent layouts, and predictable navigations. So I'm just mentioning them here, but I will not be discussing them in detail. Now, the part that I will already spend more attention on, more time, is a section called clear language. So what do we have here? Well, first of all, we have plain words and avoiding idioms and slang. We often don't realize how many expressions we are using, and those expressions are actually amazing. They enrich the language and message. But for multilingual learners, they pose that additional level of difficulty. And in educational space, actually, there are a lot of them. So even when students know English well, those idioms and slang can be confusing and misleading. So here we have the example of let's hit the ground running. What we can use instead? Let's get started quickly. And there are some idioms that are even more mysterious for international students. Learn something by heart. Is it learning with emotions? Or why is my teacher telling me to break a leg? So so it's important to think about those nuances. Next thing that we can do for our multilingual students is to consider the level of language, level of English. And so the thing to remember is to write for learners, not experts. Let's compare those two phrases. Students are required to demonstrate proficiency in. Simplified, students must show they can do something, right? It conveys the same message, and doesn't it doesn't simplify it in the sense of dumbing it down, because here we are applying clarity and simplicity, but it doesn't mean lack of depth. We are not lowering the intellectual level of content. We are just removing unnecessary linguistic barriers. And having taught American high school students, I could clearly see that um, they benefited from simplified language as well. Okay, now this next section, the next tip, it relates to translated content. And here it's about letting assistive technologies like screen readers know which language is being used at each point. So here in the example, we can see the sentence, student must submit a podanie, which in Polish means application form to the office. And now when we use the tag, students must submit PL, podanie, PL, so letting the screen reader know that it's Polish language will assure that that sentence will be pronounced correctly. But it also provides a respectful experience for American users. I remember teaching a Spanish course where there were some examples of Spanish grammar, and without that tag, screen reader was pronouncing it in English. So Spanish sentences pronounced in English are not a good, it's not a good learning material for beginning Spanish students, American students who are trying to learn Spanish. Because sometimes some of them didn't even know that it was a mistake. So, okay, excellent. The next aspect that I would like to draw your attention to is please make sure to explain educational norms and avoid US-centric references. And so the golden rule here is please do not assume that international or multilingual students will know what you are referring to. Here in Europe, I need to explain so many times what credit hours are because it's an alien concept here in this school system. And I had some funny situations where students or parents got so confused. They told me, you want me to get a credit for the program? We can afford it. I don't need to get a credit from the bank, you know. So, yeah, so things like credit cards or GPA or the names of the LMS, the platforms that we use, it all needs to be explained. Okay. Then we have the I want to talk a little bit about multimedia that works and that that makes the whole process smoother and more predictable. And of course, it benefits us all. But for multilingual students, it has that additional benefit of helping them acquire the language. So as far as captions and transcripts, Sometimes my foreign language students ask me, what can I do to immerse myself more in the target language? How can I practice at home? And, I often tell them, watch some movies that you already know and use captions. Um, and, pause when you need to, write down some expressions. And so this is a technique that really helps them develop the language. The same with transcript. This is what I use during my foreign language courses. We listen to a recording, let's say in French, um, first without a transcript, but then we use a transcript. So we find, certain grammatical concepts, certain vocabulary that we want to work on. So please keep this in mind, that by providing captions and transcript, you are doing a huge service to the multilingual students. More and more platforms and programs start to adopt audio descriptions for visuals. And this is the same concept, because it turns those silent visuals into opportunities for language learning. And also from my teaching practice, I realized that it also benefits American students as well, because sometimes they don't know how to pronounce those key terms, and they can't connect them to an image, and so this method really helps both American and multilingual students. What doesn't benefit them is autoplay. Why? Because it can overwhelm learners, especially multilingual learners who may need a moment to process what they see before hearing speech or music. It also gives them control over the pace. It prevents confusion and reduces cognitive overload. So please keep that in mind. Okay, and then finishing this section, and this relates to translated content. Please translate captions if your goal is multilingual versions. Excellent. So now I want to talk and give you some tips about navigation and how to make it easier. But before I do that, I would like to briefly share this theory with you, this linguistic theory, just to show you why those techniques matter so much for multilingual students. One of my favorite second language acquisition theory is Stephen Krashen's affective filter hypothesis. And it sounds very, the name is very elaborate, very sophisticated, but what it really means, that affective filter is a mix of confusion, misunderstanding, stress, and you can think about it in terms of a car window that we can, it goes up, we can lower it down. Um, and when we lower it down, the language acquisition happens because students are not so stressed, they're not so confused. And it's important to remember that speaking foreign language and also um, uh, well, overall functioning in a second language already brings a certain level of difficulty and also of stress. So we don't want to bring even more confusion or stress into for those students. Um, uh, in June, so a few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of participating in a user experience conference in Amsterdam. And there was a really fascinating speech um, of one of the presenters about how to design interfaces for emergency situations, for emergency workers, such as, rescuers, firefighters, people who are under huge, who are, in emergency situations uh, when our cognitive abilities are often uh, lowered when we're under a huge stress. So that these are extreme situations, right? Speaking foreign language is not so stressful, but there is a certain level of stress involved, and which is why we want to lower that affective filter down.
Carolina, we had a question, and I don't, it'd be okay if because we're here, I didn't want to miss it.
Mhm.
Nadia is interested in knowing, is this theory for students only? Does it include adult learners? I was going to respond in the chat that I would imagine it does based on experience, but I'd love you to comment on that.
Absolutely. Yes, it's a second language acquisition theory, and it relates to all second language learners. It's a great question. Thank you so much. Um, in a way, it relates to adults even more because adults are often, perfectionists. They don't want to sound or appear uh, silly or not perfect. They're often very scared to break that speaking barrier. So it matters, in a way, it matters even more for them to lower that affective filter. Hmm? Um, okay, yeah, also, this is a really interesting theory. So I'm so glad that you got interested. So, which is why I wanted to bring the theory up also to show you why those next sections really matter. So things that we talk a lot when we think about accessibility, um, they matter even more for multilingual learners to lower that affective filters, such as clear headings, um, such as consistent menus, uh, such as responsive design, um, so that we have, more consistency and predictability and less stress. Yeah, also, skipping those links to content. Let's allow students to go straight to the main learning content instead of making them go through so many um, menu items. And as far as translated content, here it's important to match structure, which means that that the structure of English version should align with the closest as possible with the translated version, just like here on the slide on the example. Okay, and yeah, and more ways to reduce confusion and increase consistency. Here I would like to mention clear labels. So specific labels. So instead of click here, the label should be specific, such as download assignment. So predictable, consistent. Also, eliminate as much as possible technical jargon or vague phrases that can create confusion. And be as explicit as possible. For example, just like on the example, your username or password is incorrect, please try again, instead of saying, oh, this is error message, this and that number. And keyboard friendly, useful for all of us, very useful for multilingual learners also, because it works more smoothly with translation tools. Okay, and this is quite obvious, but I want to emphasize that if we translate content, we also translate labels. So if we have submit, let's have the label that conveys the same in a foreign language. And now this section is very close to my heart as far as making the content culturally inclusive. Just because with the European learners, we encounter a lot of this situation where a lot of content gets lost, not in the translation, but in cultural misunderstanding. And I want to give you an example. This is actually from my teaching practice with Admentum. I used to teach world history. And we always have a lot of international students involved. And in that particular class, we had students from Russia as well. It was approximately 3 years ago. And one of the tasks, one of the unit activities that was that the students in that class had to complete was to identify modern historical hero and modern historical villain. And there was a girl from Russia. She was an excellent student. And suddenly she and her mom contacted me. They were very upset because the teacher who was substituting for me when I was on leave, they felt that he didn't treat them, right. So my student, her name was Marina, she provided a very well completed research and evidence where she was arguing that the historical hero of modern times was Joseph Stalin. Um, well, the the teacher who was replacing me at the moment, was substituting for me, got really upset, and he sent the student a really angry message saying that um, something like, you don't understand how many people, how many people Stalin murdered, and what a kind of a villain he is. If you want to see me, please schedule an appointment with me. Well, they scheduled an appointment. They asked for an appointment with me. And they honestly didn't understand why they were treated this way. And uh, it was a big lesson to me. Well, I had to handle it and as diplomatically as possible. We focused on the way the assignment was completed, where all the requirements met, all the formal requirements, was all the evidence provided, and it was. Um, and well, um, the the message and the lesson that I learned was students, in such settings bring so many different perspectives um, that we need to take into consideration. Um, so do not assume that something is correct or normal, because it just feels so normal to us, and it can't be otherwise. I I want to recommend two books to you in that aspect that I used during my um, PhD studies, and I greatly benefited from them. The first is Patterns of Culture by Ruth Benedict. And the main message is that every culture develops its own pattern that shapes values, norms, and what is considered admirable or shameful. And that moral judgments are not universal. Um, and again, did I have a right to judge? That girl, her whole life, she lived with the conviction that Stalin was her hero. And the next book that I would like to recommend is about mediated instructional communication in a digital age. And what it shows us is that, learning platform, just as the one as I was using with my American students, with my Russian students, with my Indian students, this is more than just a platform. It's a space that brings together diverse perspectives into direct contact. However, without always providing the cultural scaffolding needed for mutual understanding. So really fascinating, and a message that great to keep in mind. And with that in mind, just a few tips. Avoid unfamiliar references. So things that are, obvious for for us in the United States, for example, a home run or, Thanksgiving. Keep in mind that many people who come from outside or are multilingual learners will not be able to understand those references without explaining. The same with idioms that I mentioned before. Look what's going on in that student's head when he hears kick the bucket. This recommendation is more for Poland than for United States, because United States does excellent content creators do such excellent job with making sure that diverse images and voices are used. Here we are in Poland. We need to learn. We need to learn a lot about it. And then also here, this is for translated. I marked this translated content, but actually it's can be applied more broadly, because look at differences in local formats for dates, times, and currency. This is something that also may create misunderstandings. So 0305, is it March or is it May? It's March in the US, but it's May here in Europe. So in the same time zones, those needs to be explained very carefully. And then when we have our product, let's use them. Let's keep it human-centered. So let's test them with real people. If we are creating it for multilingual learners, let's test it with multilingual learners. So I have bilingual reviewers in mind, but also English learner feedback with but also remember this, that people from different countries will not always communicate their opinion directly, because they can be from a culture when there is a high context communication. In America, usually we have low context communication, so people express their thoughts directly. But in high context communication, and this especially applies to Asian countries, people will not directly tell you that they don't like something. So when you are designing your interviews or user testing, you need to keep this in mind. And then, yeah, of course, we have this is at the very end, documents and formats that support us all of us, such as plain help pages, multiply contact options, which is especially important for multilingual language, because some cultures prefer writing, some of them prefer talking to you, communicating orally. When you're translating, please remember about localized support documents. And yeah, this is a lot of information. Thank you so much. So happy that we could gather here and talk about them. So, wrapping up, I'd like to underline that accessibility and inclusion must go. I prepared checklist, but actually it goes beyond checklist because it requires so much empathy. This connects to our last presentation of the series. We'll be talking about empathy tomorrow, but also it requires so much cultural sensitivity and willingness to challenge our assumption about what is normal. And having said that, thank you so much for your participation and attention. Thank you so much. Dziękuję. Grazie. Merci.
Merci. This was absolutely wonderful. And I'm in my mind going, I have this course, and as you know, as a participant and who helped do some research for me, so thank you so much on that. I'm just in my mind right now going, I need to go back page by page and make sure that I have been more clear in my language. This has been very insightful and I appreciate it. I always love spending time and learning from you. So thank you. You did such a wonderful job describing, um, just describing it. So appreciate everything. And you've got a lot of thank yous in the chat. Do we have any questions for Karolina? And if you want to, you can come off mute and ask, or we can use the chat.
And you're welcome to use the brochure, the checklist, and I'm very open to your suggestions, how to improve it.
We'll give it a few seconds, let folks process. There was, as you said, there's a lot, but this is a presentation that I will want to go back and rewatch for sure.
That's a big honor for me to hear that from you, Nicole.
Does, oh, sorry,
I,
yes.
yes, I have a question. Thank you so much for the session. That was very helpful. Well, I guess I just wanted to ask, what would be your 2, 3 tips maybe for someone like yourself that speaks multiple languages and is working in the accessibility field? So not so much for people who might not be aware of different multilingual learners, but for polyglots or bilingual people working in the accessibility field, what would be your tips or any kind of advice?
So for people who are polyglots and working in accessibility fields, I think to be aware that that we have that awareness of how content is perceived in more than just one language, and to use that knowledge, so this is our special our special power, so to speak, because we can look and we can perceive that content, from those different linguistic and cultural angles. So just be aware and use it, for the benefit of our learners.
Thank you.
Yeah, there are other questions? And if not, we're coming up on the hour. And so we just want to thank you so much. I would like to thank Carolyn Scott for her amazing Marin Sign Language that she's been doing. I
Thank you so much.
acknowledge her time. We appreciate you and we appreciate this presentation and everyone who's participated. And we hope that you'll join us for the final session tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central. And it's yeah, that's it. We're wrapping up the summer. So thank you everyone. Have a great rest of your day and evening. It's probably 10 p.m. where you are, so time to get some rest. All right, thank you everyone.
Thank you.